Hi guys, Kim here. It feels as if we're living in two worlds currently, so rather than what Dolores Cannon talked about was that there would become two separate realities, it feels to me as if these two worlds exist here, and that it's up to us, through listening to our inner voices and looking for synchronicities and walking our talk, where we're able at some level to stay on the higher path and therefore enable us to ride the wave rather than being tumbled around inside the surf. Occasionally falling down and tumbling around in the chaos until the inner awareness kicks in to allow myself to recognize and clear the trigger that set me into this state, and then again engage. Part of this discipline is making adjustments to the way I talk, what I talk about, drawing back on responding or engaging on any subject that's not in alignment with my high road. I actually think that this is the reason why we are losing touch with so many of our loved ones and friends at this time, as I do not wish to participate in creating the drama, which makes us into very boring people indeed, that are not able to operate on the same frequency. But then it oscillates again and you end up engaging, so it's more like a in and out rather than final. Also living in a reality, loved ones judge the new people that we've become and criticizing it, and instead they prefer the older versions of us that suited their purposes and their manipulations more. Came across the writing yesterday from C.S. Lewis, the guy that wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, but this book's from a book called Letters of the Devil to His Nephew. It was written in 1942. So it's Letters to the Devil for his nephew. And it starts, "And how did you manage to bring so many souls to hell this time?" "Because of fear." "Ah, yes, excellent strategy. Old and always current. But what were they afraid of? Fear of being tortured, fear of war, fear of hunger?" "No, they were in fear of getting sick." "But then no one else got sick at that time?" "No. Well, yes, they were sick, I'm sorry. Nobody else was dying." "Oh yes, they died. But there was no cure for the disease?" "There was. Then I don't understand. Since no one else believed and taught about eternal life and eternal death, that they thought they had only that life, and they clung to it with all of their strength, even if it cost them their affection. They did not hug or greet each other. They had no human contact for days and days. Their money, they lost their jobs, they spent all their savings and still thought themselves lucky to be prevented from earning their bread. Their intelligence, one day the press said one thing and the next day it contradicted itself, and still they believed it all. Their freedom, they did not leave their houses, did not walk and did not visit their relatives. It was a big concentration camp for voluntary prisoners. They accepted everything, everything, as long as they could overcome their miserable lives one more day. They no longer had the slightest idea that he, and only he, is the one who gives life and ends it. It was like that, as easy as it had ever been." That's the end of the quote of that letter. Seemed to me to reflect the dystopian world that we live in today, whereby all we would need to do is open our eyes and observe to see that we're being lied to on a grand degree. And this distortion is creating a very, very weird reality for us to inhabit, full of fear and dislike. But anyway, my main point in making this video was to talk about what's going on, is to talk about the dimensional field that we sit in, and it helps to be mindful of what dimensional field we're sitting in and how to recognize what to change within ourselves if this field is still attracting chaos to ourselves. So if it is chaos, then it's likely highly related to some personal experience right now. So what aspect of this world is giving me the most grief? What's worrying me right now? What in that thing that I'm worrying about am I trying to control? Is it within my control, or is it related to somebody else? These are areas that have helped me navigate through all of this, and more I realise that what somebody else does or thinks has nothing to do whatsoever with me. It goes back to my original video I did months ago. I'll link it below, but it's called What's Important to Me May Not Be Important to You. It's only a couple of minutes long. It might be worth a watch if you haven't seen it. But it points out clearly the disparity in different people's worlds that they are inhabiting and experiencing. And they may well be vastly different than yours, even though you may be sharing the same space. So I had a flash of an idea of how to describe this. Two people could be sharing the same house and have an experience like a flood. And the two people could have entirely different experiences with this. One could be upstairs and the other downstairs. I see videos all the time of people videoing floods where they're filming from the upstairs on a balcony and there's extreme chaos going on down below on the street level. There's nothing they can physically do about it to help those other people without putting themselves in extreme danger, but at the same time they are actually sharing the same space but having an entirely different experience of the chaos. It's just merely an analogy for the extreme disparateness of our varied experiences we're having, and according to our personal circumstances, all pretty crazy and manic, or playing the role of the observer, watching the chaos play out around you without having to personally experience it. I don't mean to say that it wouldn't be very disturbing, but it's all about letting go of the attachment to the physical aspects of the world. And I feel that with Sixth Sun, this is what our current part of our journey is all about. Anyway, thanks for listening. Ta-ta.